Answer the question you're asking.
Senator Batters, followed by Senator Foranisi.
Minister Morneau, your government is once again here asking us to approve billions of dollars in spending with little transparency. This is part of a disturbing pattern. The Trudeau Government's first COVID-19 Act gave you the power to unilaterally set up a potentially massive 100% government-owned corporation without parliamentary oversight. Bill C-14 put a sunset clause of September 30th on that government corporation, but that only prevents the creation of this Crown Corporation after that date. It does not prevent your government from pouring in unlimited taxpayer money if it's already been created. And guess what? You've already created your giant government corporation. May 10th, orders in council show that you've named it the Canada Enterprise Emergency Funding Corporation. So your Bill C-14 sunset clause on this giant government corporation is now meaningless. Minister Morneau, why won't you impose a real sunset clause and close this huge loophole? Canadians don't want to be on the hook for another Trudeau government power grab.
The corporation you're referring to is one that's underneath the large enterprise financing facility that we put in place. And what it is intended to do is to manage that facility. We recognize that these large organizations that are going through stress and that might come to the government for this financing facility will likely go through stress that will go beyond September 30th. Like what happened in the 2008-2009 crisis, in which we saw that the large enterprises that were challenged actually went through a significant restructuring post the actual time of the crisis. So we've set this up, we think, in a responsible way to allow us to support these enterprises with credit. Our goal, of course, is to maintain the possibility these enterprises will come out of COVID-19, continue to be able to provide jobs for Canadians, and enable us to have a strong economy going forward. As was mentioned earlier, we've had a number of companies that have come forward, but in many cases, the mere fact of this financing facility has enabled firms to go out and get financing themselves. So we've seen over the last couple of weeks, both Air Canada and Hudson's Bay Corporation go out and seek large financing, which we think is appropriate. They've been able to find financing in the market. The large enterprise financing is intended to be for those organizations that cannot. And of course, the emergence of those challenges can happen over time, and the stress will get greater for many of those businesses the longer COVID-19 goes on. We just think it's the right way to support our economy and ensure that there are jobs after we get through this crisis.
Minister Morneau, the Conservative government in the 08-09 situation took that action in a much more limited, circumscribed way. And also, Conservatives would only purchase corporate assets out of necessity, not desire. But let's get back to your giant government corporation, though. Have you already used this Crown Corporation to dole out taxpayers' money? If so, to whom? And how much has this already cost Canadians? And are the projected recipients of this taxpayer-funded largesse already set? Will the Trudeau government use this corporation to provide massive bailouts to its favoured sons, SNC-Lavalin and Bombardier? And Minister Morneau, again, why won't you close this huge loophole? If you promise to impose a sunset clause on such a significant government power, make it count.
Well, to be clear, again, this is not intended to purchase companies. In fact, on the contrary, it's a credit facility put in place in order to provide liquidity for firms going through challenges. So the cost of that credit is relatively expensive, as is appropriate given the situation that these organizations are in, with the potential for warrants, and those warrants can be satisfied in cash from the organizations, meaning that no equity need be exchanged between the government and the company. The answer to your direct question is no funding has been released, because as was asked earlier, as to whether any of these potential loans have been approved, the answer is no. There are a number of companies who are under stress. The facility is likely to be useful, but it has not been used as yet because that process is just starting to be underway. And again, we hope that it provides us with the opportunity to support some important large organizations through an unprecedented time, which is, of course, the reason that we've set this up this way, as opposed to the more limited, significant but more limited challenge that we faced in 2008, 2009.
Thank you. Minister Morneau, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, Yves Giroux, is also very, very concerned about the sweeping powers you personally have with this giant government corporation. When the PBO testified at the Senate Finance Committee last month, he stated that vesting that level of power, quote, without any immediate oversight in one person, it's something that, in my opinion, is unprecedented in the current regime and in Canadian history. Even though speed is at a premium right now, it doesn't mean that the minister should be allowed to act by himself or alone to create trusts by corporations and borrow billions of dollars, quote. The PBO went on to say, quote, it is thankfully limited in time, but it is unprecedented and worries me a lot, quote. So unfortunately, Minister Morneau, the giant government corporation now really isn't limited in time since it's already been created. So won't you give the PBO some small level of comfort and impose a real sunset clause on that corporation?
Well, first of all, obviously, I respect the importance of the Parliamentary Budget Office in completing its work, providing a level of understanding for Canadians, for this House, for this chamber and the House of Commons to have an understanding of the federal finances. I think that's an important function. We will certainly put in place the appropriate safeguards around the large enterprise financing facility. We have ensured that there's multiple levels of due diligence as we go through this challenge, and we'll continue to take that approach. This is complex. It requires a lot of expertise which we have in government to a certain extent, but also expertise that we need to seek outside, as well as governance that's appropriate, and we are seeking to do that.